Hi there! Today in this video I'm going to show you the process of me making this Stitches from the Heart quilt pattern. Fat Quarter Shop exclusive. You can get this pattern for free. Download it at fatquartershop.com. I'm going to put a link down below so that you can get the direct access to download this and make it yourself. Today I'm going to be making it using the Folktail Jelly Roll, which is by Lela Boutique, and I received this in one of my Sew Sampler box from Fat Quarter Shop. And I'm going to be using these triangle papers, which is for making a 1-inch half square triangles. And this is also received in one of the Sew Sampler box, so great deal because I don't have to buy new stuff. I just get these from my monthly subscription and I can make this pattern. Basically, I just need to add another fabric, which is going to be the background right here. I'm going to use a solid background, and that's the only thing I need to add, which I have in my stash. So let's get to it. This is one of the fun part, getting to open this jelly roll. Now, one of the tips that you need to do before to get rid of this lint is to use a lint roller. So you basically take your lint roller and look at that, all the lint that got stuck to that. Clean it all off so that you don't have much. Ew, look at that. I don't know, I can show it to you. It's all full of lint, but it's kind of like, it's nice because it's like a confetti. Anyway, so let's just peel that off. Ooh, look at all the beauties. So this is a really beautiful print, and I think it will complement the hearts. I feel like there's so many pink hearts out there. I feel like these colors would make a beautiful heart. So let's get started. These are some of the patterns or prints that I've chosen for the quilt itself. It's going to be a small quilt, so I didn't pick a lot of them. I did omit the yellows, although I do love the yellows in there. I just feel like for this I just want to keep it minimum, and I picked some of the pinks and one added green to just add that little spice up the whole look. So I'm stacking them up, and then I'm using my stripology ruler to cut some of the pieces. I love using this ruler, especially if there's lots of small pieces, but there were not many pieces for this, but I still use the stripology ruler to actually cut the pieces up together. So there are some leftovers from the jelly roll, which I'm going to use in the next project, with other leftovers, the one that I didn't use, some of the yellows as well. Maybe I'll pick it for a later different project. So for this I'm using the stripy fabric I picked for the binding. I think it just goes perfectly. I love stripy bindings. And now I'm cutting off the white background, and although you can't see it very much here, I didn't see that my camera was a bit off, but there were not many of the background pieces, and I got. Now I'm actually putting the prints in pairs. Now these are going to be the half square triangles. I'm using the triangle on a roll papers, and I just followed the instruction on the pattern itself. So they ask you to cut some of these pieces so that it's just the right size for making 4 half square triangles for each of that. I'm sewing on one side of the paper, so you have a 1/4 of an inch away from the diagonal lines on the left and on the right. So basically now I'm doing the one all the way on the left hand side. I'm chain piecing them all the way, and then later on I'm going to turn it back. So even though if your fabric is a little off from the lines, it's fine because we are going to trim it off, so don't worry too much about that, but trying to get as close as possible to the lines that you have to stitch on. So now I'm actually doing the other side and basically doing the chain piecing again on the other side. This is coming quickly. Of course, this is a speed up video, but then it does come quickly. Now I'm back at the cutting table. So basically what we want to do now is actually trim it off. So if you are using a triangle roll or triangle paper or foundation paper, this is the good thing about it. This instruction for the pattern already includes some of the extras, so you can actually trim it off. Even though you have slightly like off setting from the paper, it's still going to be perfectly sized because it's already taking into account some of the extra bits here and there and here that is not going to be inside your 1-inch finish. So whatever inch is finished. So this one is for 1 inch, so basically it's not going to be in that 1 inch. So when you have this one here, you might feel like it's a bit wolf waste because you'll be trimming this off. But honestly, if I'm doing a half square triangle, I would actually cut all the squares a bit larger as well, so I would be trimming off later. I just find that trimming off half square triangles using this foundation paper piecing technique is just so much easier. So you basically can just trim that off following the lines. So imagine there's a line here and there's a line right here as well, and also in the middle, and we trim off here, there, and trim off this in the middle, and then flip it, and you have your half square triangle. So you basically have to just remove these two at the end. So you want to go ahead and remove that. So just trim it off simply like that. It doesn't have to be that perfect. Now you later can press it, of course, and remove the paper. So how to remove the paper? I would just peel it off from the middle like that. So you can just press them out at your pressing mat and get them all pressed and neat and ready for the next step. So that is what I'm going to do in the next step. I'm just going to trim all of these pieces into all half square triangles and taking out the paper. I might ask my kid to take off the papers, but whatever it is, that's how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be spending my time doing so. Just enjoy all the little process of quilting. I mean, the repeating process is kind of a fun thing for me. I don't know whether you like it, but I think a lot of quilters like the repetitive process. It's just so soothing, something that you can do without thinking, and it's just a soothing process. I think that's one of my favorite thing about quilting. There's a lot of patchwork, especially. There's a lot of repetitive task that is fun to do. Yep, so there you go. I'll see you when I get all of these done. Forgot to actually record my progress from trimming all this up and I flatten it. I actually did, probably I'll put in some recording from my phone, but anyway, so I got that on my design board right here, and right now I'm piecing them and chain piecing them. Yep. So I'm getting that done, and I'll get back to you when it's all done and see how it goes from here. So basically I'm chain piecing all this. So these are chain piece, so they are together. I'm gonna flatten the seams open later on with an iron, and then piece them all up together. So let's see how it goes. So this is a footage from my phone. Basically, I put all of them on the board before I start piecing them together, and in a matter of seconds, like really, I got them all pieced together. So this is how it looks like actually at the end with the background. So I'm ready to quilt it. Okay, so right now I've basted a little bit because I feel like it's a bit not stable. So basically I want to start by quilting the hearts first, probably on the outside, because I can feel that these are pretty bulky in seams, especially because there's lots of seams meeting at one point. So I don't want to quilt too much on this big side. It's actually quite busy on here, so I want to keep it simple in the hearts, but I do want to kind of fill all the rest of these white spaces with some swirls or some flowers to just match some of these flowers inside here. So we'll go and see how it goes. I'm going to try and stitch in the ditch along the edges of this of the hearts. So basically I'm just putting it in, taking the bobbins out, and just doing a couple of stitches, and I'm just going to go slowly. Now you can use a walking foot for this as well, but I like to practice my straight stitch using my free motion quilting foot, just because, you know, it gets you to give you a little more practice on control, and also it just it's just more flexible. You can actually move it anywhere with the free motion quilting foot. It's not going to be perfectly on the line, but you'll try and get as close as possible. I'm just going to do that all the way around slowly. Now this is probably going to be the most difficult part of free motion quilting, trying to quilt in the ditch. But just remember that you can control your speed. You don't have to go fast anyway. So I'm just going to continue doing that. I'll meet you when I'm going to start the white spaces, okay? So I've done the quilt in the ditch for the hearts. Now I'm moving on to the spirals on the outside in the background. You probably can't see this as well because I'm using the same colored thread, but that's the point of quilting. I just love the effect of the textures. So I'm just doing that. So now that I have completed the quilting, I'm ready to bind the quilt. So I've trimmed it up as well. So I've squared the edges so that it is squared nicely. And I have this scrap right here, which I folded in half in diagonal. And I'm going to put that in the corner because this is going to be a wall hanging. On the back, I'm going to put this too at the top corner. Going to pin that down, and then I'm going to sew it together with my binding strip. Now I haven't measured the binding strip exactly, but I know it's going to be long enough. What I'm going to do is actually just piece them all around first and then leave a couple of inches out so I can adjust and cut and trim as needed. Okay, so now I have already sewn the binding to the back of the fabric, and I've already put that corners right there for my dowel so that we can actually hang it up. And I have got this corner. I've decided to actually start it here, the binding right here, because I know that I wanted the corners to be a little bit of an accent. So that turns out really well. What I'm going to do now is actually just cut that and then sew that together and press all of that sew that back together. And then I flip it to the front side and sewed and clip it and sewed on top to stop stitch it, and voila, it's done. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you click like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.